This, like I was saying, has to be the craziest NBA free agency I've ever seen. And, I'm a Laker fan. So let's just get this out of the way first and foremost. I'm a Laker fan. I live out here in Southern California. I bleed purple and gold. I ride or die with that team no matter what. I'm 1000% biased when it comes to the Lakers. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. So obviously backtracking this to when we got Anthony Davis was a great move for the Lakers. At the time, it looked like we gave up a king's ransom. Like, oh my God, what have we done? We've given up the house, but we had to do it. Anthony Davis is a top 5 player in this league. You do what you got to do. You go get it. Okay. So along that way, Kevin Durant blows out his blows out his Achilles, and he's injured. Clay tears his ACL. The Warriors lose to the Raptors. Kawhi, Finals MVP, the whole thing, historic run. Just fantastic story. I honestly did not think we had a shot at Kawhi Leonard until about a week ago, until free agency started last Sunday. Man, I was like, he'll go to the Clippers. I always thought that. I was like, he's either going to stay in Toronto or he's going to go to the Clippers. That's pretty much what I've always thought, right? Until Sunday, when then it came out that, all right, the Lakers cleared the cap room. You had people like Damon Jones coming out there, Chris Carter, they're kind of winking, like, hey, something might be going on. And I ain't gonna lie, I've been obsessed this entire week. I've been on Lakers Reddit. I've been on Twitter. I've been following all the quote unquote NBA experts, insiders, everything, just looking at every little insight that was going on, looking at LeBron's Instagram, just everything. And I'm like, wait, could this happen? Could we be getting Kawhi? And it was starting to look good. I'm like, why did AD waive the $4 million trade kicker? These players talk behind the scenes. What do they know that we don't know? I'm like, maybe it's going to happen. We might be getting Kawhi. I started believing it. I'm like, we're going to get him. I go, he ain't going back to Toronto. Why would he go back to Toronto? I go, the Clippers don't have a second star. There's no way he's going to go to the Clippers by himself. No way. He's not doing that. He's going to roll with LeBron and AD. LeBron's talking about handing over the reins, letting him be the lead dog, He's in his career. I'm like, it's happening. It's happening. I believed it up until Wednesday, because I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, whichever day that was. Jalen Rose then came out and said, no, he was 99% sure he was going back to Toronto. And obviously we had the crazy thing where Kawhi, flew from LA out to Toronto and the helicopters are flying, following the SUV, that whole crazy thing. I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe he is going to stay. Maybe he had a change of heart. Then Friday gets here. And I'm like, and I'm hearing everything that Chris Carter's saying. And Chris Carter obviously is very close to Uncle Dennis, who's kind of like his agent, I guess, Kawhi's agent. And I'm like, wait a minute. He keeps saying it's not over. All 3 teams are in. But even Chris Carter was like, oh, I should go to the Lakers. So I'm like, you know what? I think we're in it. Obviously, Uncle Dennis met with Magic. Magic said the front office is cool. I'm like, everything's lining up. It's going to happen. And then even it came out that Kawhi's camp asked the Lakers to not to extend out the trade deadline, to sign Anthony Davis and all that, because obviously that kept the cap room going. I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. We're getting them. I went to bed last night, like, okay, because I'm out here, like I said, Southern California. The earthquake happened last night. Everybody's tripping about the earthquake. So I didn't feel it where I live. So I went to bed. I'm feeling good. I went to bed probably about 11 o'clock. So 30 minutes after I went to bed, shit hit the fan. Everything went down after that. And I wake up this morning and my Twitter notifications are, I went to the Clippers. I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, oh my God, Kawhi went to the Clippers. That's crazy. All right, let me wake up a little bit. Let me see what happened. So I'm like, really? He went to the Clippers over Toronto and the Lakers by himself. I was like, I'm shocked. That's what I'm thinking. And then sure enough, I pull it up, blockbuster trade. Paul George has gone to the Clippers. I'm like, what the hell just happened? He went to the Clippers. Oh, like, wait a minute. Paul George? What the hell did they give up? King's ransom. 3 unprotected first-round picks. 2 first-round swap picks. Gallinari, what's his face? The other cat, the young cat, and I'm blanking on his name right now. They gave up the farm to get Paul George, which it was to get Paul George and Kawhi. So the crazy thing about all this was the fact that Kawhi had been working the back channels this entire time, recruiting a second guy. He wanted to go to the Clippers the entire time. And he basically was using the Lakers as a leverage chip. And look, I think ultimately if he could not have gotten a second guy to come with the Clippers, I do think he would have gone to the Lakers. I think Toronto, he wasn't going back. No way. But it's interesting that he kept the Lakers on the hook all this time, right up until the end, to, obviously leverage and work the channels. Because Stephen A. Smith, even last Sunday, was saying he was hearing about that Kawhi talked to Durant and was trying to get Durant to come to Clippers. And I was like, that's dumb. Durant's going to the Knicks. And then even that obviously was crazy because he went to the Nets. So I'm like, they're just, these experts don't know what they're talking about. Sure enough, turns out he was right the entire time. That Kawhi originally was trying to get Durant. Durant didn't want to go. And then he tried to get Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was like, nope, don't want to do it. I'm going to Miami. And then ultimately he got in Paul George's ear. Paul George demanded a trade. And then Oklahoma, look, give it up to Sam Presti because he worked it like genius. He got Toronto involved, got Toronto and the Clippers in a bidding war. And then Toronto realized at the last minute they were basically being used, backed out. At that point, it was the point of no return for the Clippers, and they gave up the King's ransom to trade Paul George and get him to the Clippers. Kawhi signs the dotted line. Boom. Instantly now, 2 stars in L.A. with the Clippers. Clippers are obviously a title contender. Again, bravo to the logo. Bravo to Jerry West. I knew it in the back of my head that the Clippers were never going to truly be out of it because of Jerry West. Jerry West is the best executive we ever seen in the NBA, probably in sports, period. And let's just look at the resume really quick. He's the one that got Shaq to leave Orlando to come to LA. He's the one that saw a young 17, 18-year-old Kobe Bryant, did that private workout with Chick Hearn, and was like, we got to get this kid. Facilitated the deal with Charlotte at the time. Vlade Divac traded to Charlotte. Trade rights, Kobe, Shaq and Kobe, drafted Derek Fisher that same year. That started that dynasty, obviously Phil Jackson, the whole thing. Then after that, he goes to Memphis, and he takes Memphis, which had been a doormat franchise going back to the Vancouver days. And even once they went to Memphis and turned them into got Hubie Brown to be the coach and got drafted Pau Gasol, turned them into a relevant franchise, right? I believe they even upset San Antonio in the first round one year under his watch. Then, what does Jerry West do? He does a favor back to the Lakers and does the Pau Gasol trade. Gets Pau Gasol in LA, pairs him with Kobe, rest is history. We go to 3 straight finals, win 2 of them, blah, blah. Then he goes as a quote-unquote consultant with Golden State, helps put all that together in Golden State, whispering Kevin Durant's ear, yo, you want to go win a ring with us? Kevin Durant comes, forms that super team, boom. Then he goes to the Clippers. He gets rid of that crappy Blake Griffin contract, clears up their cap, gets Doc in place, gets the front office straight, makes all the right moves. Boom, here we are right now. Hey, they gave up a ransom, but now the Clippers are relevant. The Clippers are just as relevant as the Lakers in Los Angeles. Now, look, the Lakers, this will all be a Laker town, but you know what I'm saying. They're a title contender again. So bravo to Jerry West. Bravo, he's the logo for a reason. So I can't take that from him. But here's the thing that I got to say that, and I put a little hater tweet out just a few minutes ago before I went live. Paul George, specifically Paul George. I ain't mad at Kawhi. That's where he wanted to go. Do what you got to do. Made it happen. But Paul George is kind of a hypocrite in this whole thing. Let me take a sip. So Paul George, now remember, when he was with the Pacers, it was the worst kept secret in the world he was going to go to the Lakers when he was a free agent, right? Magic on Jimmy Kimmel just tampering all over the place. The Lakers were so confident that he was going to come. They didn't want to give up any of the assets, which ultimately they gave up those assets to get Anthony Davis. So glad they didn't. But Magic wouldn't give up any assets because it was wink, wink. When he's a free agent, he's going to come to LA, right? Worst kept secret in the league. So Indiana smartly does a trade with OKC, gets Oladipo, gets the bonus, rest is history in that. it obviously worked out for both teams because I really like Oladipo. I like the Pacers, but hey, OKC, you paired him with Russ. He had a great year there, and he did the unthinkable. Was he didn't come to LA. Now we got LeBron. He didn't come to LA. He stayed in OKC, and he gave his reasons that he had a wonderful year in Oklahoma City. Him and Russ was brothers. Let's run it back. Let's do this thing. The whole thing, July 7th was going to be Paul George Day, all this crazy stuff in Oklahoma, right? Because that's just how wild that was, that he didn't come home to the Lakers after it was the worst kept secret in the league that he would do that, right? Okay, fine. You did it. God bless you. Season happens. Turns out Russell Westbrook can't shoot no more, and Paul George is having an MVP year. Then obviously he gets injured with the shoulder, and he kind of tanks on the back end, and then Portland takes him out in the first round. You're thinking, all right, hey, they got their duo though. Maybe they can trade Steven Adams. Maybe they can do some other moves on the back end, reload, and take another crack at it. But you got your two superstars in Russell Westbrook and Paul George. I find it so hypocritical because here's the thing. So you were so in love with Oklahoma and Russell was your brother, but literally a year later, Kawhi picks up the phone and was like, hey, bro, come run with me on the Clippers. And you demand a trade and you say deuces and you're out. There's no loyalty there. There's no loyalty. I think history will show that Paul George has no loyalty when it comes to that because, wow, really, you literally committed yourself to this franchise for the long term. They're investing in you. They're building around you. And then you demand to get out after a year. That is just crazy to me. So, hey, God bless Oklahoma because I felt like that was a no-brainer trade. If the Clippers were that desperate to give up all those assets, you do it. But the person I feel bad for is Russell Westbrook because, again, let's go back to the KD stuff. We're finding out now that he promised at a dinner with Russ, Nick Collison, Kendrick Perkins was there, and I think someone else that, hey, I'm going to stay in Oklahoma City. And then the next day he goes to the Hamptons, changes his mind, and doesn't even give the respect to Russ to pick up a phone and tell him what he's doing, right? So, of course, Russ is going to be mad about that and didn't want to have anything to do with Kevin Durant. And then, obviously, we see now with Kevin Durant even going to a super team in Golden State, which absolutely took care of him, two-time Finals MVP, he still bounced. And it wasn't even that, the Achilles is why he bounced. He was going to bounce anyways. Again, worst kept secret in the world that he was going to go to New York. Obviously, the Draymond thing, whatever. So, not to backtrack too much into the Durant stuff, but the point is, I feel bad for Russell Westbrook because, this dude, like him or not, hey, he probably shoots too much at this point, but Russell Westbrook is giving you 110% every night he gets out there. I will always respect that dude for that. And he showed loyalty to stay in a small market in Oklahoma City. Then Durant leaves. And, obviously they got rid of Harden even before that. And then here comes Paul George and he's thinking, okay, all right, I got another guy I can build with. Let's do this thing long term. He's out too. I'm Russ. Trade me. Get me the F out of Oklahoma City now. You can't stay anymore. You can't because you can't trust that another star is going to come there while he's still in his prime to build around. So I think for both Oklahoma and Russell Westbrook, you trade them, you maximize the assets that you can get for him now. Oklahoma just, get rid of Steven Adams as well, hit the eject button, rebuild that thing from scratch at this point. It was an amazing run that started with them being in Seattle, getting Durant, getting Russell Westbrook the next year, getting Harden after that, Ibaka, all those guys. They had a great run, in the past 10 years, but it's over. It's over. They got to just go ahead and hit the eject button, take all these assets that they're getting and just start over. It's the right thing. So the interesting part of that is, just to stick on Russell for a second, take a sip. Like I said, I could talk to the NBA stuff all freaking day. But to stay on Russ for just a second, I'm of the opinion, and someone had pointed out on Twitter that this might not be the way to go, so I'm kind of rethinking. I'm of the opinion you don't trade Russ now. You wait until the trade deadline to trade him because you're going to get someone that is going to be close to being a contender or is a contender that one star player is going to put them over the hump to really put them into title contention this year, right? So you hold off until the trade deadline, keep Adams and Russ, see what you can get in February, right? But someone pointed out a great thing to me on Twitter. Russell Westbrook's shooting percentage just keeps going down. I mean, I don't know if there's some injury things in there. I don't know what it is, but Russ can't shoot. Even though now that it's just him, Russ is probably going to shoot 50 times a game at this point. He's going to put up some ridiculous numbers of what is his percentages going to look like. So it may be trade him now to maximize what you can get, because maybe if teams get to see Russ over the next, over the first half of the season, maybe he's not as valuable as he'll be right now. It's an interesting quandary that OKC could be in. But if someone's crazy enough to give it to him early on, screw it, do it. But if they're getting 75 cents on the dollar before the season, I'd wait, because at that point, even at the trade deadline, you're still going to get 75 cents on the dollar for Russ. But maybe someone's crazy and they give him $1.20, for Russ. Something crazy like the Paul George trade. You never know. So obviously, I'm sure they're going to be looking at that, and they'll figure out something, because it even came out with the way that OKC was playing Toronto and the Clippers against each other. It came out that OKC was willing to trade Russ and Paul George to Toronto, but they wanted Siakam, they wanted Van Vliet, they wanted like 4 first-round picks and all this crazy stuff. And obviously, Toronto was like, we're not doing that. But the interesting thing I look at is, who should Russell Westbrook go to? First thought, obviously, was the Knicks. That just seems tailor-made. They got the cap room. They got assets. Send them to New York. Send them to the Knicks. That would probably be best for both parties. But here's my dark horse team. Here's the team. This is kind of why I want to say wait till the trade deadline. And my kids are screaming about something. I don't know. Maybe someone else got traded. I don't know. I say the Nuggets, and the Nuggets aren't going to do it now. The Nuggets would do it at the trade deadline, depending on what happens, in the season. Because the Nuggets are going to be a great team in the West. I mean, they're young, but they're going to be a contenders right along with the Clippers, the Lakers, Utah, and the rest of them. You add Russell Westbrook. They got assets that they can move to get them. You add Russell Westbrook into that mix at the deadline. I don't know. That's the one that I look at and think he could go to, and he could make a difference in the playoffs. But we'll see. And then you look at Steven Adams. Where would Steven Adams go? I'm not sure. But obviously, Steven Adams is going to bring you great interior defense. He's going to bring you shot blocking. He's going to bring you rebounding. And Steven Adams is a decent scorer. I mean, he's never going to be a first option or even a second option. But, he can do the dirty work down low. So those are two assets that are going to come out of OKC between now and the trade deadline, in my opinion. And then, like I said, they're just going to completely blow it up. But let's see. What are people saying in the chat room? Because I've just been rambling. But then when I look at other, like I said, so Russ, Steven Adams are definitely going to be trade assets here from now until the trade deadline. Kevin Love's going to be another big one that's going to be out there, in my opinion. I even look at like San Antonio. I think about DeMar DeRozan, potentially. He could get moved. What is San Antonio going to do? Because San Antonio's not going to necessarily contend this year. So maybe they start looking to try and move some of their assets as well. Obviously, Toronto now, they're going to keep Siakam. Siakam, he's a young asset. They're not moving Siakam. But you look at Marc Gasol, he probably gets moved at some point. Kyle Lowry definitely is a candidate to get moved. I mean, he's a point guard. I don't want to say he's a 3-and-D guy, but, he can get the 3. I don't know so much about the D. But he would be a nice asset for Toronto to move as well. It just makes sense for Toronto at this point now that Kawhi's not coming back. They should blow it up, man. Blow it up. Get rid of every asset you can except Siakam and just try it again. That's what I would do. I think when we look at Washington, I think Bradley Beal is also another asset that could get moved. Bradley Beal's a top 15 player in this league. I think what Washington would try to do is get off of that John Wall contract. So whatever they would move Beal for, maybe they do get 75 cents on the dollar for Beal, but they also force that other team to absorb that Wall contract to be able to get out of it, because that's just a poison contract right now. Washington can't do anything with that. The other interesting team is going to be Houston, because that Paul, no one wants that Chris Paul contract. There's no way. He's too late in his career, making an insane amount of money on the back end of that contract that no one's going to want that, because it is literally just going to kill your cap. But Houston's got to do something. I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you move Gordon? Do you move what's his face? I'm blanking on his name now. The center. I'm blanking on the name. I'm being bad right now. Do you move him? I don't know. I don't know what Houston can do to improve themselves right now beyond what they are. But the league has kind of regressed a little bit, because obviously Durant being out of action right now and obviously not on the Warriors takes them down a notch. Clay's not going to play until probably February, so that's going to take them down a notch as well. But, and I tweeted this earlier, do not sleep on the Golden State Warriors. I'm telling you right now, don't sleep on the Warriors, because they won a chip without Durant. They showed you in the playoffs without Durant. They can still get it done. So, yeah, Clay's not going to come back until February. If the Warriors can do, they got D'Angelo Russell, who I think if he doesn't 100% fit in what they're doing, he'll get moved at the deadline. That's another guy that's going to be an asset at the deadline. But if they can keep their head above water, good time keeping your head above the water, if they can do that until Clay comes back, say they're 5, 6, 7 seed in that range where they're just right there, get Clay back, they make that run second half of the year. And hopefully with D'Angelo Russell, they don't burn out Steph in the interim trying to keep them in games. Because that's a lot of what the NBA now is, the quote-unquote load management. You don't want to run your stars into the ground so they're exhausted by the playoffs, or they're just dinged up, etc. Because that's what basically killed the Warriors. I mean, think about it. They were on a 5-year run going to the finals every year, and those miles, those minutes, they just simply add up, which even in the flip, looking at LeBron, this almost might be a blessing in disguise for LeBron. This is my Laker bias coming in, where he didn't go to the playoffs this year after, a 9-year run where he was going to the finals every year? Some R&R will do you good. But back to my point on the Splash Brothers, the Warriors, if they're healthy going into the playoffs, Splash Brothers are back to 100%. Draymond's playing Draymond kind of stuff. They kept Looney, so he was a nice surprise going into the playoffs with his rebounding and defense, and he was showing some decent, scoring moves around the hoop as well. Warriors are going to be a threat, man. I mean, here's the thing when I look at the West, and again, I'm biased, so take all my bias with a grain of salt. I'm telling you right now, I don't know the exact seeding on this, but the Lakers, the Clippers, Utah, Denver, Portland, Golden State, Houston. God, who am I missing? I'm even missing somebody that's gonna be like when I'm talking right now, I'm talking could win the whole thing, could go to the finals. Those 7 teams have the talent to go to the finals this year. Then you start thinking about other teams that are going to be pesky, a little frisky, like Dallas is going to be frisky. I love Luka. They're going to be frisky. Porzingis is coming back, so don't sleep on Dallas. I'll never give up on Pop 100% with San Antonio. They're going to be frisky. I'm curious to see what Minnesota is going to look like this year. I'm not expecting too much from them this year, but I'm just talking to West right now. I know I'm looking at the chat room, but I look at just that list in the West. That's freaking strong, man. OKC obviously is going to blow it up now, so they're not going to be there, but just in those teams off the top of my head thinking about, they're going to be, Sacramento. I can't forget about Sacramento. Sacramento's going to be frisky as hell too, but just right there, man, tough. West is going to be so tough. Just talking about those teams, because obviously we look at Utah. Utah upgraded heavily this offseason. Bravo to Utah. My 2 favorite teams in free agency this year were Utah and Indiana with the moves that they made, because I felt like they definitely upgraded those teams to be a contender. So let's flip it to the East real quick. When I look at the East, it's still the Bucks. Milwaukee, even though they lost Brogdon, Milwaukee's still going to be the class of the East, in my opinion. I don't see them not being a 1 or 2 seed coming out of the East, right? So you got them. Don't sleep on Boston. Everyone's making so much about, Kyrie. Kemba put up the same numbers as Kyrie last year. Plus, Kemba's not going to be the locker room cancer that Kyrie was. So, you put in Jaylen Brown, and then you have oh, going back to the West. See, I'm all over the place with this. But the West, the Pelicans, obviously the Pelicans, Zion, all the Laker kids they got, the other assets and stuff, they're going to be frisky in the West as well. But again, Boston, going back to the East, like I said, you're going to have Milwaukee. You're going to have Boston. Like I said, I love what Indiana did. I'm curious to see what Miami's going to look like after, they got off of that Whiteside contract. They added Jimmy Buckets. They'll be frisky. Who am I missing that I'm thinking about in the East? When I'm saying like could get to the finals, not just being frisky. Obviously, the Nets aren't going to be ready yet because KD isn't going to be back until the next season. So, they'll just be a frisky team potentially. The Knicks are the Knicks, even though the Knicks didn't do as bad as people want to make it out to be. Because hey, if they weren't 100% that thinking that Durant was worth that max deal coming off a year off of that Achilles, hey, I ain't mad at him. God, who am I thinking of? Again, this is where I'm not prepared and I'm just doing this off the top of my head. I like Orlando. Definitely like Orlando, which Orlando is another one to not sleep on for Russell Westbrook going there. I don't think Westbrook would want to go there, but that's another team. You put a Westbrook in there, they're instantly going to be a contender in the East as well. Who else am I thinking of? God, I'm being really bad right now trying to go down the list of the East teams. Like I said, Toronto, I think their best bet is to go ahead and break this up right now. And like I said, I already mentioned Indiana. Atlanta's not ready yet, even though I like a lot of the moves that Atlanta's been making the past couple of years. They've been getting younger, and just some of the players they're getting. Charlotte obviously is taking a step back, so they're not going to necessarily be a contender either. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun NBA year. Like I said, I legitimately think there's about 12 teams that could win the title this year. It wouldn't shock me at all. And again, this is all on paper. Who knows when injuries are gonna happen? Who knows what other kind of trades and moves are gonna happen? At the trade deadline, things like that. But as we sit here today, on July 6, 2018 or 2019, excuse me. I think there's about 12 teams that could potentially contend. Did I say Portland? Pretty sure I said Portland in the West, because Portland's another one that's interesting to me that I think they could be a team that could make a potential. Oh, I forgot about the 76ers. See, this is on top of my head. 76ers obviously is going to be a big contender in the East as well. But Portland in the West is another one, along with Denver, that I don't think people should necessarily be sleeping on. But like I said, it's going to be freaking wild, man. And then just to kind of wrap this up a little bit, my Lakers. Again, I'm biased. I'm 100% biased. So getting Anthony Davis was worth the price, whatever you had to pay, because he's in his prime. He still has another 10 years of playing at a dominant level. You get that guy, you build around him. LeBron realistically has 2, maybe 3 more years left of playing at peak level. The thing with LeBron at this point, just like we saw with the groin injury last season, and he's getting older. He's going to be 35 this year. You got to manage the load management. You got to manage his minutes and not too much on him. I look at what the Lakers did today, and I like this team. I like it for being able, and again, injuries play a factor in all this stuff, but let's just go down the list. Again, I'm biased. I'm going to talk about the Lakers because that's my team. So let's just look at the potential starting 5 for the Lakers, right? Boogie at center, AD, LeBron, Danny Green, Rondo. Then you're going to have coming off the bench Kuzma, JaVale, KCP, Cook, and they got that one kid. Was it Troy Daniels, I think, or something like that, the shooter kid. They re-signed the Bald Mamba, and they got Dudley, and potentially they might be getting Kyle Korver. I mean, I like that. And again, this is health. If they can stay healthy, that squad can win you 50-plus games, get you a decent seed in the West, and if we keep LeBron fresh and AD fresh, now we get to the playoffs. Let's go. I'll take my chances with that squad in the playoffs, especially if Boogie comes back. He'll never be 100% peak when it was AD and Boogie at the Pelicans, Boogie. But if we can get 80% of that from Boogie, let's not forget, Boogie was doing, 16, 8, 4, something crazy like that with Golden State. limited minutes. And then obviously he tore the quad in the first round, and by the time he came back in the finals, he wasn't in shape. But if we get a now Boogie 2 years off of the Achilles, in shape, ready to go by playoff time, I like my chances, man. I do. I really do. In this NBA, I think we got the veteran leadership at that point with LeBron, who's been there, done that. He knows what it looks like. You got an absolute monster in Anthony Davis, which I think a lot of people keep forgetting. Anthony Davis is dominant. He is clear. Like, look, we all talking about the claw. We love Kawhi. Anthony Davis is just as good. And we're forgetting about that because he plays in New Orleans and he's not had a deep playoff run. But just from a talent standpoint, Anthony Davis can easily get you 25, 12, and 3 every night. Every night. He plays, obviously, he's dominant on the offensive end, and he's a pretty good defensive player as well. A lot of people forget that. And I think the key is having Boogie and JaVale allows AD to play the 4 and not the 5. It's kind of the Tim Duncan thing, right? Where Duncan never wanted to truly be a center. Duncan obviously wanted to play power forward, and that's where he excelled. And I think the same thing with Anthony Davis. So let's not sleep on that. And LeBron James, like it or not, and trust me, I was not the biggest LeBron James fan before he put on the purple and gold. I've always respected LeBron James. He, by the time he retires, will probably be a top 3 or top 4 player of all time. But LeBron James is Magic Johnson 2.0, and he always has been, in the sense of he is a top tier passer. And if LeBron can basically be our point guard going into the playoffs, and you got Anthony Davis and you got Boogie being able to pick up some of the scoring slack, bruh, I like my chances. That's all I'm saying. I like my chances. So I'm very excited about the NBA right now. This is going to be fun as hell because we've not gone into a season like this probably since 1999, after Jordan retired. I can't think of a year where we went in and we have no idea who the champ's going to be. Like where you can nail it down about 2 or 3 teams. Like one of these 2 or 3 teams is going to win the title, right? It's wide open this year because and let's look at the history of the NBA really quick before I get out. Again, I'm a nerd with all this stuff. I love this stuff. I've been a basketball fan since I can remember, from the early 80s. So even if you take it just from the earliest, let's take it from 1980 all the way up to where we are now. So if you look in the 80s, only 3 teams won a title, and I think only 5 teams actually went to the finals during that time frame. And that was the Lakers won titles, the Celtics won titles, and the Pistons in the 80s. That's it. No one else won titles. Oh, and the Sixers, I'm sorry, it's 4, won titles during the 80s. And then you had, who else went to the finals during that period? The Rockets went, and that's it. That's it in the 80s. It was either the Lakers or the Rockets coming out of the West, and it was the Celtics, the Sixers, and the Pistons coming out of the East. So it was very dominant, even during the 80s. And then obviously that rolled into the 90s, and that's when the Bulls won 6 titles. Jordan takes a couple years off. The Rockets won 2 in between, and then you had that 99 year where, the Pistons won in 90, then the Bulls won from 91 to 98, and then you had, 90, 94, 95, where the Rockets won. And then 99 was the strike year, and that's where San Antonio got a chip with Duncan and Robinson, and the Knicks, who were an 8 seed that year, because it was a strike shortened year, they were an 8 seed, and they got to the finals with Sprewell and those boys. I think Allen Houston and all them were on that team. I'm looking at the chat right now. Toronto, Bulls, Lakers, Pistons, Rockets, all down. Yep. And then obviously we got into 2000. That's when the Lakers, Shaq and Kobe, they rose up, did their thing. Obviously San Antonio did their thing. Pistons won that 1 year in 2004. And then the Celtics had their run in there where they got the chip, and then they were always around. Obviously, the Lakers rebounded again, won 2 more titles going into 2010. And then, the super team was formed with the Heat, the Heatles. They got a couple chips in there. San Antonio, this is when Kawhi started getting into it. They won a few chips. Then Dirk got his in there. And then that's when Steph was activated. What was that? Splash Brothers became active. What was that, around 2014 or so? Then they have 2013 or so, because that's when Mark Jackson was the coach. And then Kerr comes in 2015. They win the title. LeBron's, obviously Cleveland. He's been going from the Heat to Cleveland. He's going to finals every year up until where we are right now. And here we are. Obviously Durant came in, extended out the Warriors run, that whole thing. And now here we are, where there's no clear-cut super team anymore. You have a bunch of teams with 2 stars on them. Let's see who stays healthy, and let's see who has depth, because that's why Toronto, look, and I'm taking nothing away from the Raptors. The Raptors 100% earned that title, because just like in the 80s where Magic and Byron Scott had injuries and Detroit won a title, or even the year before that when the Lakers beat Detroit. And game 6, obviously Isaiah Thomas hurts his ankle, even though he scored 42 points. And going game 7, he was limited. Injuries happen, is my point on that. They just happen. Even when the Bulls won their first title over the Lakers were a mash unit even then. But hey, it is what it is. So Toronto 100% earned that title. But part of the reason was, while the Warriors were breaking down and losing people and had zero depth, Toronto was just deep. And they just came at them in waves, and they earned it 100%. So I think that might be the template as we go into this season and the next few. Sure, you're going to have teams with 2 stars, but injuries happen. Who's going to be able to sustain if we get in the playoffs and one of your big 2 goes down? We obviously saw the Warriors be able to sustain somewhat, even when Durant went down against the Rockets, because they still had the Splash Brothers. But then when Clay went down in the final, that was a wrap, man. It was over at that point. So, I don't know. I'm just super excited for the NBA. I think it's going to be fun as hell to watch. Hell, I might even have to get NBA League Pass this year, because there are going to be so many fun teams to just watch. And I'm telling you now, there's somebody out there that we're not thinking of, that we're thinking, they might be all right. Someone's going to blow us away. There's going to be some rookie that's going to come in, that we're not thinking of, that's going to have a fantastic year, and they're going to be right there. We're going to get to the Eastern Conference or Western Conference finals. We're like, damn, they're there. Or we're going to get to the finals like, damn, how did they get there? I'm telling you that's going to happen. I have no idea who it's going to be. And then someone we think is going to be really good, this is my haterism coming in, Clippers, ain't going to be there. And we'll be like, wow, I thought they were going to be really good, and they're not. But real talk on the Clippers real quick before I get out of here. Kawhi, PG, Pat Bev, Lou Williams, was it Harrell? Doc's the coach. I mean, we saw what they did without a star last year, and they were there. They gave the Warriors fits until the point where Durant was like, F all this, I'm just taking over, and was just dropping 50 on them those last few games. So the Clippers are legit. Don't get me wrong. And when you think between Beverly, the Claw, and PG defensively, they're going to be good. They're going to be really, really good. Trust me. I'm just a Laker fan, so I will never give them credit. But from a basketball standpoint, they're going to be good. I fully expect them to be a top 3 seed in the West going into the playoffs, if not the number 1 overall seed. But again, it depends on health. And that's what I think a lot of that comes down to. It really isn't so much, I need the number 1 seed and I got to have game 7 in my house in the Western Conference Finals. It's about who's the healthiest going into a game 7, be it at home or on the road. I mean, hell, just look at second round this year, where Portland goes into Denver in game 7. A lot of that had to do more so with just youth and nerves and all that. But things happen, man. Hell, Golden State didn't win a game in Oakland in the finals this year. How crazy is that? Toronto won all 3 games on the road this year in the finals. So you never know. But I'm excited, man. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with this NBA season. It's going to be a lot of fun. I expect my Lakers to be right there in the mix. We'll see what happens. I have no clue, but it's going to be fun as hell to watch. And so that's all I got. That's all I got of my rambling. I'm looking at the chat right now and see what other people are saying. Yeah, I try, again, I love basketball so much that a lot of stuff is just memory, because I just remember watching it all. You know what I mean? And I just remember all those amazing moments. So that's why I like a lot of championship stuff just off the top of my head. But, I used to be like that with college basketball. I was such an NCAA junkie, like from mid 80s until probably when I went in the Navy. So early 90s, I knew everybody on every D1 team because I would follow them from freshman all the way up until they were senior and they graduate and go to the NBA, because that's how much I loved college basketball back in the day, man. But now, with all the one and dones and all that, I barely pay attention to college basketball anymore. Like, as an example, it's so funny. Zion, do you realize the first time I saw Zion play an actual basketball game was yesterday in the summer league? Because I never watched Zion actually play at Duke. Didn't see him play, not a second, other than highlights on SportsCenter. That was it. Which, let me say this for the record, since I'm talking about that. Zion's not going to be as good as we think. I was watching him yesterday, and it's funny because I think Enes Kanter is the one that said this, that he's just a bigger Julius Randle. I think that's very appropriate. He's going to run into the same problem I think that Giannis has right now. Bruh, I need to see a 15-foot jumper out of you. I need to see you hit a mid-range shot, because they're just going to crowd the lane. They're going to let you dunk on them all the time. Just like what Toronto did in the Eastern Conference Finals with Giannis. They were like, yeah, you know what? We're just going to put a wall right in front of you. Hit a shot. Hit a jump shot. Giannis couldn't do it consistently. And that's why Toronto came back and beat Milwaukee. Now, I think Giannis will work on it and he will develop a shot. But the same thing is going to apply to Zion. Everyone thinking Zion's going to come in as a rookie and just dominate the league and win Rookie of the Year and all this kind of stuff. I got a feeling he's not. I think it's going to be one of these rookies we're not even thinking of right now is going to be the one. It's kind of like, what's his face in Utah? Why am I blanking on his name? You know who I'm talking about. Donovan Mitchell. Same thing with him. Everyone was, Marquez Fultz, Lonzo. Everyone was talking about those guys, but it was actually Donovan Mitchell that came in and dominated, even though Ben Simmons won Rookie of the Year when he really wasn't a rookie. It was kind of like with Blake Griffin, where he was just injured the whole year. So then we finally played. He was technically still a rookie, which, speaking of Ben Simmons, I know he's about to get the max, and he'll get it. Of course he will, because he's a great young talent. Hell, I wanted the Lakers to get him, of course. But as I'm watching Ben Simmons' game, everyone's trying to compare him to LeBron and all that. Here's the difference. Again, LeBron couldn't shoot when he first came in the league. Let's not forget that. But it was a different league in the way that defenses played. You didn't necessarily had to hit a bunch of threes and mid-range shots back then. But LeBron has obviously worked on his game over the past 17 years. He can hit threes now. He can hit the mid-range. He can do all that. Ben Simmons has to do the same thing, man, because he can't shoot. It almost seems like he shoots with the wrong hand. I think he should be shooting left hand. I don't know. I don't know. But Ben Simmons needs to learn how to shoot. It's the same with Lonzo. Look, Lonzo and the Lakers no more, so I don't have to defend him anymore. But Lonzo can't shoot either. Which, I know he has the funky jump shot. I could care less what your jump shot looks like. You just got to be consistent with it. And even more so with Lonzo. Lonzo isn't he under 50% free throw shooter? Unacceptable for a point guard. You can't trust that dude on the floor late in the fourth quarter, because guess what? Instead of hack a Shad, it's going to be hack Alonzo. Put his ass on the line if he can't hit a free throw. And that's the problem with him. That's why Luke Walton couldn't trust him when he's with the Lakers. So we'll see, man. We'll see how this plays out with these kids, man, because obviously the game has turned into a mid-range and even more so mid-range, a three-point shooting. If you're a four now and you can't hit a three, then you're almost worthless. What's his face? PJ Tucker for Houston. I love that dude. I really would. Houston would be insane to trade that dude. I would love to see him in the purple and gold because he's tough. He's going to go down there. He reminds me of Charles Oakley back in the day. But guess what? PJ Tucker will hit that corner three all day. All day. I love that. And that's what these big men have to do in the league now. So, when I think about a Ben Simmons, you're supposed to trust him with the ball. He's supposed to be your general on the floor, but he can't make a jump shot. He's worthless to me in the fourth quarter. That's why it's interesting to me that Jimmy Butler didn't want to stay in Philly and instead wanted to go to Miami. Because if you go back to that playoff series against Toronto, who was hitting the buckets down the stretch for them? It was Jimmy Buckets. It wasn't Simmons. It wasn't even Embiid. It was Jimmy Butler. and he's gone now. So who's going to be the guy in the playoffs for the 76ers to hit big shots? Let's also remember J.J. Redick gone too. He took the money and ran to New Orleans. So they don't even have him anymore. Who's creating for them? That's what I want to know. They may even have to make another move. I mean, we'll see. They kept, what's-his-face from the Clippers. I'm being real bad on names. Again, I don't have any of this stuff written down. But what's-his-face that they also traded for last year that they got from the Clippers, which ironically enough is what helped facilitate them, the Clippers being able to get Paul George. But, they signed him to the max deal. Is he going to be your fourth quarter guy down the stretch, hit the big shots? See, that's the other thing with the NBA you got to remember. You got to have someone that when there's 2 minutes left on the clock and you got to hit a big shot, who's getting the ball? Who wants the ball in their hands? Look, I know the Lakers are good because we got LeBron. LeBron will take those shots, right? The Clippers obviously got Kawhi. He's going to take those shots, right? Even in Utah, Donovan Mitchell ain't scared to take those shots. You know what I'm saying? Dame in Portland ain't afraid to take those shots. Love him or hate him with the whole OKC thing. Russ ain't met a shot he's ever been afraid to take. Look, I don't care if you make it or not, but you got to have that guy that when you need someone to go get you a bucket, he'll go get you a bucket. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's going to separate these teams that are actually going to be contending for a chip versus the ones that just look good on paper. Who's your closer in the fourth quarter? You know what I mean? And again, that goes back to you got to be able to hit a mid-range shot. You got to be able to make your free throws. Again, this is what I'm telling everybody. Do not count out the Splash Brothers because we obviously know that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter we've ever seen. But you know who is the one of the greatest clutch shooters we've ever seen is Klay. I mean, why do you think they call him Game 6 Klay? Hell, he was doing it in the finals before he tore his ACL in that Game 6. Klay is one of the most clutch, under pressure shooters I've ever seen in my life. I love him. I swear he might even be my favorite player. He might be my favorite player. I think he is because I just love Klay. And that's why I'm telling you as I wrap this up now, do not count out the Golden State Warriors in this upcoming season. Sure, they're injured now. Sure, they're a little depleted right now. Talk to me in April and May when Klay is back. Let's see where they're seated at. Let's see what their first round matchups look like. Because, again, let me sit on them for just a second. Of all the teams in the West, who should they be afraid of? Maybe the Clippers, just defensively. I just think, with that three-headed monster between Pat Bev, PG, and the Claw defensively, on the perimeter, they're going to lock up, Steph and Klay, potentially. They ain't afraid of Houston. They ain't afraid of Denver. Much as I hate to say it, shouldn't be afraid of the Lakers, even though if the Lakers got it going with AD and Boogie down low, there's none you can be able to do with that. Like I said, Utah, Portland, the rest of these boys, what are they going to be afraid of? So I'm just telling you, don't be shocked if the Splash Brothers are there at the end. That's all I'm saying. So I'll wrap this up with that. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I just had to get in some NBA talk. I had to get this off my chest. I just had to start talking about NBA, which tomorrow we'll be doing Gamertag Radio, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Danny will be on here. We'll be talking some gaming stuff. I do hope you guys like this format where I come on and stream. I put the stuff on the YouTube channel. I do have an unboxing of something coming on my YouTube channel Tuesday. So that's July 9th at midnight. And you guys will get to see what that is at that time. I got more stuff coming on the way that I'll be showing off here soon. I'm actually going to be out of town next week, so I won't be around during the week. But streaming stuff, YouTube, podcasts, definitely looking to crank the stuff up, especially as we're going into the holiday season. I've 100% will be talking more sports because I just love it. You think I know NBA? Wait till we get to NFL season. I gotta know that stuff even more. But super excited about all the content and potential things that'll be coming up here on the channel soon. So again, guys and gals, appreciate you guys hanging out with me. This is fun. Remember, join the Discord channel, leave feedback. Appreciate all that good stuff. And I'll probably grab the stream that I just did. I'm gonna chop it up, put it out on the YouTube channel, maybe tomorrow, something like that. But again, thank you guys for hanging out. I really appreciate it. This is a lot of fun, and I'll see you soon.